Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me to this class today. A very valuable class on causes of inflammation. And we had a high sign up rate, so we know there's big interest in this subject. My name is Khabir Southwick, Ayurvedic doctor and pharmacist in private practice, and now doing Zoom appointments worldwide for the last 27 years, and also founder of hermanteas.com, the sponsor of today's talk. So, today's subject's very important because, of course, as you know, I meet patients throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year. A majority of them have inflammation, and so I repeated this information sometimes a few times a day. Maybe after this, I can just send them this link to watch this webinar, so I don't have to repeat all this information again and again and again, which I do every day because we have all forms of inflammation. Inflammation can show up in so many different ways. Of course, most people just think of inflammation in their joints and arthritis, or rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune condition, which is a type of inflammatory condition, still based on your immune system overreacting, but it's inflammatory. And everything I mentioned today would still apply, plus things that stimulated your immune system, but that's another subject. And then, of course, muscle inflammation, which could, at its extreme would be called fibromyalgia. I can treat that fibromyalgia, but I still can't spell it. I don't know about you. I know people that have it and can't even pronounce it right, but it's for inflammation of the connective tissue. And you can also have, of course, inflammation of the intestines, inflammatory bowel disease, IBS, ulcerative colitis. These are all inflammatory conditions inside of your intestinal tract. Then women can have, inflammation in their uterus, endometriosis. And of course, your skin could get all red and you could have dermatitis, inflammation of the skin. You can have, bad headaches and inflammation in the nerves in your head. Inflammation will just cause havoc. And I always try to make people understand the importance of reversing your inflammation and not just, turning it off. I mean, what do I mean by turning it off? That's just taking a pain pill. When you have pain, that's like an alarm going off telling you there's a problem. Now, of course, just like a headache and many other types of pain, doesn't exactly tell us what the cause of the pain is. I mean, there's many things that can cause headaches and pain, but it does tell you there's an emergency and you should stop and you should do something about it. So when you have inflammatory pain and you take a pain pill, it's the same as just taking the batteries out of the alarm system for a few hours, and you're completely ignoring the causes of this inflammation. So it still can remain on this pathology. And the danger about pain, just like a fire in your house, if you don't do anything about it, it's going to destroy tissue, just like a fire is going to destroy parts of your house. So you don't want to ignore the alarm, telling you to better do something before there's destruction. That's what an alarm is for. And that's the purpose of pain. And by the time you have the pain, you probably already have the damage starting. Just like if the alarm goes off in your house, the fire has started. It's not a precursor. It's like it's already advanced to the point where the fire has begun. And if you don't get this fire out, this inflammation down, it will destroy, in the case of a fire, your house. In the case of your tissue. So, eventually arthritis will destroy your joints and your muscles will become inflamed and you'll become fatigued and weak, and your nerves can be damaged, and your uterus can be damaged. Your colon just had inflammation initially becomes ulcerated. Even your stomach can become inflamed and then become ulcerated. Once it's ulcerated, then that's the damage. That's the progression of this inflammation. So taking a pain medicine or an aspirin, you have to remember, does not stop the cause. You have to remove the causes of the inflammation. Now, there's diseases that create inflammation, like autoimmune conditions and cancer. etc. But what we want to really focus on first is just get rid of all the dietary causes of inflammation. That's really what we're going to focus on today. And this is a detailed list. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Like people think, oh, dairy is inflammatory. Well, butter is not inflammatory. I can tell you. Even ghee is anti-inflammatory, and it's made from dairy. So just get that whole YouTube concept that all dairy is inflammatory out of your head. Oh, grains are inflammatory. No, not all grains are inflammatory. Maybe Wonder Bread, processed bread, and it's really not even the grains, it's the pesticides that got sprayed all over them. The glyphosate covered wheat that then gets in your intestines and inflames your intestines, just like it damages the intestines of the bug and then kills it. It inflames you. So, we can't be, generalizing, which is what a lot of people do. And people in their naivety, just start eliminating everything. And then by the time they come to me, they're 100 pounds and they're still inflamed. And then they miss some of the things that really are inflammatory because they just thought, oh, it's wheat and dairy. And then a lot of times, they become depleted because they're not eating sufficient nutrients. So let's just take care of some of the obvious ones first. Let's just do the obvious here. And I know it sounds obvious to me because I probably repeat this 3 times a day, but we'll start with refined sugars and sweeteners. And let me just say, you should just get rid of all these things, basically. I mean, there's nothing on here that even if you don't have inflammation, you should be continuing with an exception. Okay, well, with a little bit, we'll have some exception, but I'll make that clear. Some things would not be inflammatory for everyone. But let's just talk about the ones that are for everybody. Refined sugars and sweeteners. Number 1, white sugar. And of course, that includes all of your favorite pastries, all your favorite candies, all your favorite cookies. It includes your Starbucks with extra sugar in it. It's all everywhere. It's your salad dressing from the supermarket with sugar. White sugar is inflammatory. I mean, there's other damaging aspects of white sugar too. I mean, it's a nutrient depleter. You end up with, it's taking away nutrients. It's stimulating, particularly to children. It's, of course, going to leave you keep doing it. Your soda pop, you're going to get diabetes. So I think it's safe to say, which is how I raised my kids, sugar is poison, kid. Just remember that, and you should just really think like that. You shouldn't even touch it. A staff member brought me some birthday cake, and I just looked at this slice of cake, and, I have no attraction to eating a cake with icing on the top. And anyway, it just doesn't appeal to me. I do want to be polite to, my staff, but I couldn't touch it, man. I mean, it's just, I know this thing's poison. I just go eat the apple, eat the blueberries. I got blueberries, raspberries in my fridge. I just rather eat my raspberries. So I would never give white sugar to your kid. And of course, there's worse things than even white sugar when it comes to sweeteners. The high fructose corn syrup is even the faster path to diabetes. So, you're only 30, you don't have your diabetes yet, you've just been eating cookies and candy. And you want to really speed it up and get there faster, do the high fructose corn syrup, which you can find the sugar and high fructose corn syrup in children's cereals and foods, believe it or not. So we wonder why the diabetes epidemic is completely out of control. And this is the reason right here. White sugar and then high fructose corn syrup, which is even worse than the white sugar. Now, and then a fake healthy sugar that's inflammatory and will jack up your blood pressure, blood sugar, is agave. I think that fad's way gone. It was one of those fads. We're all on to new fads now. We've got mushrooms are the cure-all, keto diet is the cure-all. These are the new fads. But at one time, we did have agave as a fad, but it's gone. People just woke up. They saw people with the blood sugar meters are the ones that realized that was shooting their blood sugar right up. It's not honey. Honey isn't inflammatory. Fruit is not inflammatory. And there's people who believe all fruit is bad now. It's the old baby with the bathwater thing. All grains are bad. All fruit is bad. All dairy is bad. I mean, there ain't much left here. That's why you got some people just eating meat all day. What do you call that? Oh yeah, that keto diet that I always jab on every single talk. So what else is, of course, inflammatory under this category is the artificial sweeteners, aspartame and sucrose. I think there's a few of them. But not only are they inflammatory, not only will they jack up your blood sugar, they don't have zero cholesterol, though. I mean zero carbs. I mean, that looks good on a can, but they're carcinogenic too. So you can jack up your blood sugar, get diabetes, and get cancer all from your sugar-free soda pop. So let's just cut that out and stick to the blueberries. And, fruit juice without the sugar isn't inflammatory. Now, if you've got high blood sugar and you're already a diabetic, you can't have fruit juice. But let's be specific here. Now, let's go on to the next category, refined grains. You notice I use that word refined. I didn't say all grains are bad. It's the white bread, the Wonder Bread, the white rice. And not only is white rice and white bread inflammatory, it's also will jack up your blood sugar. For diabetics, can't have it anyway. I mean, it's and a big bad habit of a lot of Asians, Indians, who obviously, they got some good knowledge over there with Ayurveda, but they're still eating white rice, except the wealthy. Of course, in the kings, they didn't have white rice. In India, I always remind the Indian kings had the rice of kings, which was black and red. So, the wealthy, the kings didn't eat the white rice. And of course, we only learned to polish this, I don't know, 100 years ago. And before that, nobody had the white rice. So, but it's also constipating. It's like cardboard, white rice and white bread. I mean, you should just completely avoid it for all these other reasons. I wouldn't say it's super inflammatory by itself, but is just completely nutritionally devoid. And of course, pasta and bread, if it's this processed non-whole wheat grain, all these cookies and cakes made of white flour. Now you got the white flour plus the sugar. You got two inflammatories in there. Your path to diabetes is even more clear. And of course, once you have inflammation, people have said, hey, they just stopped the cookies, the candies, and the soda pop. They already noticed their inflammation went down even before they got my herbs, which can reverse it very fast. So but not all grains. You can have whole wheat bread, that's has to be organic, because it's not the wheat that's bad. It's what humans did to it. I don't want to blame just men, I mean, it could be men or women. We don't know, but we added the glyphosate to it. That's the big problem. And in fact, a lot of people, they go to Europe where there's more restrictions on glyphosate. Apparently in the United States, they can do what's called double spraying when it's young. They want to blast it so there's no bugs eat it. And then right when it's big and, all the wheat kernels are there blowing in the wind and they're about ready to harvest it, they blast it again in the United States so there's no bugs on it right before they harvest. It's called double spraying or something like that. Well, that's banned in Europe. So they blast it with pesticides when it's young, but right before harvest, you can't do it. So a lot of people said, hey, in the United States, they eat bread, they get intestinal bloating, they get pain. As soon as they go to Europe, they're having pasta, pizza, everything, no problem. Well, see, it's not the grains. It wasn't even the white flour in Europe that was the problem. I mean, I wouldn't say the flour's that inflammatory, but it's just such a useless thing. It's really the pesticides that we put in it. That's why when you go to Europe, you don't feel the inflammation and the pain. But I still wouldn't have it. I still wouldn't be eating it. And even when you're in France, no patisserie, as tempting as they are. Okay, what else? Fried and processed food. Oh, my God. Now we're talking French fries, chips, onion rings, all this fried food. And, if you look, frying a potato, if you just go study food combining and things like this from Hippocrates and Chinese herbalism, Chinese medicine and Indian medicine, it always talks about certain foods you just don't want to fry. I mean, you can stir fry some vegetables and get away with it, but they always say the potato, never fry the potato. Well, they haven't been to all US of A where we just love fried potatoes. So when I'm out there in Texas having my Texas meal, I at least get those mashed potatoes. Never. The French fries and the chips. And people are buying this stuff, eating it all the time. And of course, all fast food. I mean, again, this food, fast food, these burgers, fried chicken, it's not only inflammatory. I mean, that's really not even the biggest issue because the kids, you're eating it when you're young, you're not getting the inflammation. So, but it's just, devoid of nutrients and it's full of pesticides and chemicals and poor and bad oils and bad fat that there's just so much harm going on that even the inflammation is just the tip of the iceberg with this fast food. I had my son and I didn't even walk him one time into any fast food joint. In fact, there was a fast food place on the corner on the way to a park, and I wouldn't even walk through the parking lot with him. I said, man, don't even walk on the parking lot. If anybody takes you to a fast food place, just stay in the car. And when he was little, I said, see that clown in there, McDonald's? See that clown? Well, that clown's evil. Never trust him. He's just going to sucker you in and sell you a bunch of poisonous stuff. And I think adults should think like that too. Okay, so what else is next? These industrial processed seed oils. Now, I know that omega-3s, of course, are helpful, but most of my clients take it with arthritis and joint pain. And they're taking plenty of omega-3s, and it's really not getting rid of the problem. So because it's all over YouTube to buy these omega-3s, and people are buying fish oil, omega-3s, and they're doing it, and they're not seeing much change. So it's not like a major thing. And definitely omega-6 the so-called bad omega. You still need it in the body. People forget that, and it's not even made by the body, so you still need it. It's only the excess of it, but the real problem with these oils is not even, sunflower oil, good cold-pressed sunflower oil has value. It's very super low in cholesterol, and we use it for people with gallbladder attacks, and it's like the only oil they can have. So, there's values to some of these other oils, but this corn oil, soy oil, canola oil, safflower oil, and definitely these vegetable oils in bottles where you don't even know what the heck it is, just this vegetable oil in a plastic bottle. Oh my God. And of course, the plastic's going to seep in some estrogen too into the plastic bottle, and I've, studying this, I should do a talk on testosterone. I get these men to show up. And one of the big causes is too much estrogenic things in our food, like, the hormones in the meat, hormones in the chicken to make them fat, hormones in the beef to make them fat. And then estrogen, of course, when we're talking hormones, and of course in plastic bottles. And now you're buying your oil in a plastic bottle. Oh my God, I can't go on. But, there's good oils out there. You always should get organic. Virgin means it was the first pressing, and you don't want some of these seed oils. They have a bad reputation because they used, I think it's hexene, it's called. It's a chemical to extract the oil, but you can get pure sunflower oil, cold virgin pressed. It's not going to be a problem, even though it's high in omega-6. So don't just think all seed oils are bad, which is what they say online. Now we go to another category of inflammatory foods. These things are more than just inflammatory. It's just a bad idea. Processed meats. And I'll throw in most red meat, but definitely the processed meat. What do they put in? They put in the nitrates in it, and these sausages and hot dogs, these deli meats. Oh, these are, they put this nitrates to make them pink. And every time I go and buy fish, I always get the wild salmon, and I talk to the meat man, I call him. I don't know why I don't want to use the word butcher, but anyway, because I'm buying my fish. So I just call him, the meat guy. And I always ask him, you eating a fish that's not wild? They almost say, no, I only have the wild. And I go, why? Well, they tell me, all the processing that goes into these fish that's not wild. It's not even really on my list, but, they're eating their own feces and they're fed grains instead of what they're eating, and they have to put a dye in just to make the salmon look orange, so that's don't take this unwild fish. And also I talk to these guys too, even about meats, and they all know about these nitrates that they put in them. So you can get some organic meat or grass-fed cows or range-free chickens. But you don't want the nitrates. You want them organic and, from a farm, not this, like industrial level chicken prisons that you see online where these poor chickens are in a little box getting grains their whole life. I mean, it's just terrible. And bacon, I mean, there's a reason whole religions don't even touch bacon. Do your research. I mean, it's a ground feeder, just like shrimp. They're just eating everything on the ground. Pigs will eat their own fecal matter. I know down in the South, they're not going to be happy to hear about this news. But, I get a lot of cholesterol, fatty liver problems from all the bacon and the lard that we're getting down here. But I would avoid all this sausages and hot dogs and deli meats. I mean, not only are they inflammatory, but they're carcinogenic. Now, we're getting on to that sensitive subject like dairy. Now, dairy is not all inflammatory. It's really, again, the problem is what humans, men and women, I don't want to just say mankind here, have done to the dairy. We processed it, which is basically we heated up and destroyed all the digestive enzymes that help you digest it that are so healthy. That's why when I raise kittens, I always have to get the whole milk because these kittens or puppies, they need these bacteria. And then we homogenize in it, which is like a really a pressure. I believe it's a process. They homogenize it, they pressurize it, and they change the molecular structure of the actual cow milk and just make it really hard to digest. That's why I drive another 30 minutes to go get my raw milk from a farm and just lap it down. And it's very cooling, very nutritional, very building, very strengthening. The dog loves it. The cats love it. Everybody loves it. So don't throw out all dairy just because, there's you can't digest it. And then, of course, ghee is the best dairy, and it's not going to inflame anybody. But, a lot of the yogurts are inflammatory more because they put the sugar in it and it wasn't really cultured. I would never do ice cream just because it's cold, and some fermented and aged cheeses can be inflammatory, particularly when they're very aged. So, but not all dairy and not for all people, really. Alcohol, of course, is inflammatory, especially the beer and the cocktails, the sugary wine. The more sugary it is, the worse. And of course, it disrupts your liver function, kills your brain cells, and it increases systemic inflammation. No more needs to be said. Let's move on. Caffeine, which just about everybody who has inflammation of the intestines, particularly irritable bowel, IBS, ulcerative colitis, stomach ulcers, they're all drinking coffee. Not alone. All the insomniacs are also having 1 cup of coffee a day, but that's another story. But, particularly these acidic coffees, that's why people put the milk and cream in it, so it wasn't so acidic, so it wasn't. But now people are so scared of the milk, they don't put in the creamer, which, the creamer's not that good either. But we know that the coffee bean, which of course isn't even really a bean, just like the peanut's not really a nut. The world's just full of lies, even when we look at food. The coffee bean is inflammatory by itself. We're not even talking about the caffeine. It's the coffee bean. And black tea, because of its fermentation, a lot of fermented foods can be inflammatory. Even healthy and fermented foods they increase heat, they increase, particularly for pitta type individuals who have extra warmth, and autoimmune conditions can really be exasperated by fermented foods. So, that's a little bit on a case by case fermented foods, but black tea is inflammatory, but green tea is not. It's anti-inflammatory. So you can see I have, Herman Teas, our sponsor today, has over 52 teas on the site, hermanteas.com. And not one with black tea. I would never use black tea. I mean, and I have like 5 or 6 with green tea. And green tea is anti-inflammatory. So all you got to do is just change from your coffee or your black tea over to a green tea. And you can put, I have green tea flavored teas with different seasoning and spices. And, I have a green tea. It's good for weight loss and give you energy and take away your appetite in the morning. Weight loss tea. I got sweet cooling tea, which is cooling and sweet and got some caffeine in it. I got brain and memory tea, which has got some herbs for your brain and a brain and energy tea. I'm sorry. And the energy is the caffeine. And then I put in the herbs for your memory. Well, it's much better to be having this brain and memory and energy tea every day. We call it get moving tea because you've got the green tea in it. You've got other herbs for your mind. And, it's a healthy substance to get you going and not, the coffee. So really everybody should get off coffee. And once you have bad inflammation, you're going to have to get off coffee. It's just taking a accumulation. Well, let's move on to another bad boy subject here, and that's artificial additives and preservatives. I mean, it sounds like our government's finally waking up and cracking down on these because the EU has banned over 1,000 artificial preservatives that are still legal in the United States. But, one of the really inflammatory ones is the MSG. That's a bad one. And then these nitrates, sodium nitrates we talked about, everybody knows they're inflammatory. All these food dyes, that's why I think we're going to get rid of finally one of the worst carcinogenic ones. What is it? Red dye number 40, inflammatory plus causes cancer, banned in the whole world except United States. But there's a whole bunch of these preservatives, BHA, BHT, all these preservatives you see. That's why you got to buy organic. Not only you're going to create inflammation, you're going to lead to cancer with this accumulation of toxins. And believe me, every cancer patient I have, I tell them everything has to be organic. You got enough toxins in you already. So now one more category, which isn't necessarily inflammatory for everybody. But once you have the arthritis, once you have the inflamed skin, we have to leave it out. And that's the nightshades. Eggplants, a bell pepper, a white potato, paprika. Had somebody in Louisiana was eating tomato sauce with paprika and bell peppers every day. So we'll have to see how that person's inflammation is when that's gone. So we get a lot, Hispanics having a lot of tomato sauce and hot spices. Even hot chili peppers can be a problem for a lot of people. But now science has finally caught up with ancient empirical knowledge that knew that the nightshades or tomatoes in particular are inflammatory. I mean, we've known about this for thousands of years. Apparently, even the Romans apparently didn't even eat them because they gave them stomach pain. And apparently, we found some new breed in the United States that wasn't so painful when you ate it. But I've eaten a bunch of cherry tomatoes off of my garden on empty stomach and ate too many in the morning on empty stomach and just about rolled over in pain. So they are inflammatory. And if they're canned, they're worse. But once you have inflammation like arthritis, you got to stop all these nightshades, tomatoes, eggplant, bell pepper, white potatoes. They all have to go because you're already inflamed. And many of my patients, I give them this big list, and then I send them the herbs because, now I don't really have my clinics like I used to where people were coming to me. Now I just do the Zoom appointments and then I mail them the herbs. So say they do an appointment with me and then we mail the herbs the next day. The U.S. Postal Service loses it for a few days, which is typical. So they don't get it for another week or so. And then, so it's been a week since I spoke to them, gave them the dietary guidelines before they got my anti-inflammatory herbs, which are tremendously effective. And they tell me, even within a week before the herbs even showed up, the heroes, what's going to save them and really reverse this inflammation and this arthritis once and for all, get these toxins out of their joints. They already say just changing the diet, getting rid of the tomatoes, the eggplant, the sugar, and the coffee, just those three things, and they notice their inflammation comes down. People have said 20 to 50% just by removing some of those items that I talked about today. And then when, of course, the herbs go, then they really notice the inflammation drop. Now, on the other hand, I sell many of these anti-inflammatory herbal products, Ayurvedic ones, online. And some people say, it didn't work. It didn't work. And I say, you do an appointment. They do an appointment. Guess what? They're having sugar, candy, hot spices, tomato sauce, coffee, all these inflammatory things. And that's why the herbs didn't work. So that's why the ancient saying is, if you have the right diet, you don't need the herbs. If you have the wrong diet, then, of course, you have to have the herbs because you've already created the problem. I don't think I got that proverb right, but you got the idea. And of course there's many, anti-inflammatory substitutes instead of all these bad oils. You've got ghee, you got coconut oil, you got olive oil. Instead of sugar, you've got dates, you even got stevia, you got raw honey. You can use whole grains, mini grains like quinoa, millet, brown rice. These are much better. And you've got all kinds of, cooling leafy greens. You've got all kinds of anti-inflammatory herbs. And, frankincense powder is extremely inflammatory. Turmeric doesn't really do that much except the extract, the curcumin. But anyway, the herbs are very powerful, but the diet has to change. So I hope that motivates you. Just eliminate all these things before you get the inflammation. Now, I don't know too many people that have done that besides me and my mother and my son. Just to avoid it. I'm 62. I don't have any pain or inflammation anywhere. And my mother's 89. She doesn't have any pain or inflammation. And my son, well, he thinks all this stuff is poison. So I'm not too worried about him. But most people just, go along their life. Who cares? Enjoying all this stuff, think that they're enjoying life. And then the pain and inflammation is so bad, they have to, stop all of these things. And if they don't, they're just going to suffer and have to take pain meds for the rest of their lives and then deal with the side effects of the pain meds. So you better just stop before you get the inflammation and the pain. Because I get some patients and they've got joint pain, muscle pain, endometriosis, and intestinal pain. Now they're going to see 3 or 4 different specialists. So they don't even realize all they have is one thing, is systemic inflammation. They think, oh, they have endometriosis. Well, that's one condition. They have fibromyalgia. They think that's another condition. Then they have osteoarthritis. That's another condition. Then they have dermatitis. They think that's another condition. I tell them, no, it's all the same thing. Inflammation everywhere. And once you stop all these things I told you, take the inflammatory herbs. Of course, we have different inflammatory herbs for different organs and different parts of the body. And it's not just, we just don't take turmeric all the time. That's YouTube. We have special formulas for inflammation for all different types of inflammation. And then you can reverse this condition, but you can't be going back on all that inflammatory stuff again, or it's going to come back. And believe me, in 27 years of practice, I've had people come back every 5 years with the inflammation because they forgot everything I told them after 3 or 4 years. And they went back on all this foods and all this snacks and sugar and cookies and soda pop and alcohol and tomato sauce and all these things. And their whole inflammatory condition came back. So this is to help you. This is the whole purpose of this, is to help you to avoid this pitfall that I've seen thousands of people make. Eating too many inflammatory, poisonous foods and hurting their whole life. I mean, once you have pain, how can you enjoy life? What's your quality of life when you have pain and inflammation all the time? So I would think this is very important. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Hope it helped you. Hope it helped you avoid pain and inflammation for the rest of your life. And if you do have pain, inflammation, stop all these things, then do an appointment with me. Then I'll send you the herbal remedies and we can reverse it, because all those conditions I mentioned are all 100% reversible, but you have to get rid of the causes first. Thank you very much.